Good morning, everyone. I hope you guys are all having a blessed week. Mine's going really good. It's garbage day today, so we got the garbage trucks out there cruising around. It's pretty noisy, so we had to come inside. So listen, I wanted to ask you a question. Have you ever found yourself in a position where you said, you know what, there's no way this is going to turn out good? No way. You remember Joseph? Joseph was sold by his brothers. They hated him, and they sold him to some Ishmaelites that were coming through, and they sold him for 20 pieces of silver, and they took him off and sold him as a slave in Egypt. And he wound up in a dungeon for several years. He was falsely accused of rape by Potiphar's wife, and so he stuck him in prison, and he stayed there for a little over 2 years. And I'm sure that the whole time that he was in that dungeon, he was probably sitting there thinking, you know what, I'm going to die here. There's no way this is going to turn out good. And then all of a sudden, one day, without any notice, he gets yanked up out of the dungeon. They clean him all up, put new clothes on him, give him a haircut, shave, just everything he needed. And they brought him before Pharaoh to interpret a dream. And he did. And he told Pharaoh about a great famine that was about to come. 7 years of plenty, 7 years of famine. So Pharaoh put him in charge of all the granaries in Egypt. So it all worked out good for Joseph. But then all of a sudden, this famine spreads down to Canaan, and his brothers are hungry. So Jacob sends his sons off to Egypt to buy grain. And lo and behold, pretty soon Joseph, he's been gone for like 15, 20 years. They didn't recognize him. Pretty soon he lets himself known to them that, hey, I am Joseph. And all of a sudden fear came upon every one of them, because they knew that he's most likely going to kill them for what they did to him. And they probably thought, you know what, there's no way this is going to turn out good. And they were thinking that because each one of them was probably thinking, had Joseph done to me what I did to him, I would kill him. And that's probably why they were thinking, here he is, the second in command of Egypt, he can do whatever he wants to him. And they were extremely afraid. But then Joseph says something to them that I think is pretty cool. In Genesis 50, 19 and 20 it says, "And Joseph said unto them, Fear not, for I am in the place of God. But as for you, ye thought this evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring to pass in this day to save such people alive." In other words, Joseph is telling them, listen, you guys meant evil. You sold me as a slave. But God meant it for good. God knew that I would come to Egypt, rise to power, and I would be able to save you all. And eventually, Joseph brought the entire clan to Goshen in Egypt, where they stayed for 400 years till they came out with the Exodus. But his brothers thought, there's no way this is going to turn out good. And then all of a sudden his brother was kind to them. And it did. You have anything in your life where you think there's no way this is going to turn out good? You know, I have things happen every once in a while, and I say to myself, you know what, there's no way this is going to turn out good. Lord, I need you to intervene. You know, Paul said a couple of times on a couple of different occasions, there's no way this is going to turn out good. One time he said, you know what, we're dead. We despaired even of life. Paul said, we're dead. This is it. Lord, I'm coming. There's no way we're getting out of this. But he did. God found a way. This is what it says in Romans 8:28. "And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose." You know one thing I've learned in my life? Whenever I can look at any situation and say there's no way, I know there's always a way. Because all you have to do is look in the Bible at all the people who thought there's no way I'm getting out of this alive, and God delivered them every time. And He'll do the same thing for you and me. My problem is, now I'm sure this is not you, but my problem is that I always try to solve my problems myself. Too many times, God is my last resort instead of my first. And whenever I try to solve my problems myself, I always wind up making things worse, almost every time. You know, in the military, we had a saying, hurry up and wait. And anybody out there that's been in the military, they've heard that statement, hurry up and wait. And the reason is, you'll all form up like you have to go somewhere, and you'll hurry up to get there, and then once you get there, you wait for half an hour. And that's where that saying comes from, hurry up and wait. You hurry up and go to the chow hall, then you got to wait in line to get your food. It's just a military saying that's probably been around forever. So listen, trusting in God, that very statement, I trust God. People, I can honestly say, I trust God, and I know that most of you do too. But listen, if you say, I trust God, then you know in your heart that when you pray about something, God is going to act. God is going to help you, especially in those situations where you think there's no way. When you ask if you have faith in God, you know that He's going to answer that prayer. If you have faith in God, and if you truly trust in God, then you need to get yourself to the point where you wait for His timing. You wait for His answer. And people, I'm not saying that's easy, because I know it's not. I hate waiting on God. I hate waiting on God with almost everything within me, because there's something in me that says I can solve it myself. Well, the bottom line is, a lot of my problems, if I could solve it myself, I already would have. And it's been lingering forever because I can't solve it myself. So I have to trust in God. So guys, listen. Whenever you're in a situation, no matter what it is, and you think there's no way, people, if you turn it over to God, there's always a way. Anyhow, I just want to give you something to think about. Heaven or hell, you choose. Just remember, once you take your last breath, it's a done deal.